There have been many athletes throughout the history of the strength sports game to compete in many disciplines. Now, to compete in both strongman and weightlifting is a very specific and unique endeavor, and there are some pros and cons to both of that. Now, before we get into that, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button below, hit that notifications bell. My name is Alec Jose Pagan, and I'm here to take you on this strength sports journey. Let's talk about what I feel are the three main keys of success to be able to participate in both of these sports at the same time. Key of success number one. Skill transfer. Now, typically, someone trying to compete in both of these sports would more than likely have a background in at least one of them before switching over or participating in both. Using your background to enhance your newfound skills is absolutely paramount to your success in both of the sports, frankly. Let's say you have a background in the sport of weightlifting and you're now competing in the sport of strongman as well. Using your skill of the split jerk would put you miles ahead of your competitors in the sport of strongman, who typically just use the push press technique for just about all the overhead implements. Key to success number two, planning ahead. Because you have many events to train in the sport of strongman, coupled with the standard baseline exercises, the squat, deadlift, and press, that doesn't leave you with very much room for any other skills or practices. So in my opinion, using the strongman events in and of itself is a great way to increase the general strength in conjunction with the newfound weightlifting skills. For example, training heavy sled drags and pushes also happens to be a great way to strengthen the legs for both weightlifting and strongman while training the strongman event at the same time. Now, my last key to success, and arguably the most important one, is training sub-maximally. With these two sports in particular, it is incredibly easy to get carried away with the weight. Planning 3 to 6 month long training blocks that are sub-max in the main lifts and controlled rep maxes on positional work is critical for longevity and, more importantly, skill acquisition. So, instead of maxing out your deadlift or your snatch in a typical training session, training sets and reps based on positional maxes instead will be very ideal for your progress as an athlete. For example, doing a hook grip deficit deadlift for an easy 5 rep max will be a lot more beneficial to the athlete because it has carryover to both of the sports, practicing your hook grip for the sport of weightlifting and, more importantly, the deadlift for the sport of strongman. Now, putting a hook grip disadvantage and a deficit disadvantage would keep the athlete from getting to true maximal weights and, more importantly, get them to train sub-maximally and keep them within the rep ranges that are more beneficial to the long scheme of training plans. Let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of training for both strongman and the sport of weightlifting. Advantage number one, the full athletic package. Now, outside of the sport of sprinting, no sport in the world creates faster and more explosive athletes like the sport of weightlifting. Their ability to move in space is quite frankly second to none. Now, if you were to couple that with the most insane full body development, in particular their locomotion maximal strength that strongman athletes possess, you have the most complete and developed strength athlete. Advantage number two, comprehensive training. Now, typically when training for strength sports, there will always be a strength or movement quality that will fall by the wayside depending on the sport you're participating in. Weightlifters don't typically train maximal strength, powerlifters don't typically train their energy systems, cardio, and this normally leads to overuse injury. Combining both weightlifting and strongman would basically fix most overuse injuries that you typically see. You can't just train snatch, clean, and jerk day in, day out, nor could you train just the strongman events. This broad array of events and total body training would ultimately create a healthier and more well-rounded athlete that you typically see within strength sports. Okay, so now that we know some of the advantages, let's talk disadvantages. Disadvantage number one, specific mastery. So, when it comes to strength sports, weightlifting and strongman might just be the two most technically demanding sports within the strength sport arena. To say that you need to put 10,000 hours into just one of these sports is a bit of an understatement. So combining the two puts the lifter in a position where they have to be ready to progress at a much slower rate than what might be considered normal. And if they're not ready for that sort of progression and that slower bit of training in order to get these comprehensive skills embedded into themselves, they might not be ready to take on these two endeavors. Disadvantage number two, drugs. Now, weightlifting is the one strength sport in the world that has just one governing body. It's actually amazing they were able to do this. One of the rules of this governing body, however, is no performance-enhancing drugs of any kind. However, strongman does not have such rules. It is a non-tested sport, which basically means come as ye may. Now, if you want to train strongman to the highest levels, an athlete might find themselves in a position where they might encounter performance-enhancing drugs. This would exclude them and their ability to train for weightlifting competitions. They would ultimately have to choose in each sport how far they would like to go before truly committing to the competition process. There have been many athletes throughout the history of the strength sports game to compete in two different disciplines at the same time. First up on our list is Mark Henry. Now, Mark Henry is one of the most decorated strength athletes, regardless of the sports that you're talking about. He's participated in powerlifting, strongman, and weightlifting, and has reached the highest levels in all three of those sports. So it would be a shame for us not to include him yet again on a list like this. Mark Henry has a silver medal in the 1995 Pan American Games. He has 3 national titles in the sport of weightlifting, and he has 1 Olympic Games appearance for the sport of weightlifting. On top of that, he's the very first man to win the Arnold Classic Strongman competition, considered one of the heaviest and most challenging strongman shows in the world. Next up on our list, yet again, a little bit of deja vu, is Misha Koklayev. You can't not talk about this man if you're going to talk about transfer athletes from strongman to weightlifting or weightlifting to strongman. Misha Koklayev is one of the most decorated athletes to ever participate in any strength sport ever. He is the only man to snatch 210 kilos and have over a 900-pound deadlift. He's participated in just about every single strongman competition at the highest level, and he's been on the podium for every single high-level strongman competition, whether it be the Arnold, whether it was IFSA, Fortissimus, and World's Strongest Man. This man has been on the podium for all of those shows, and on top of it, had the Russian national snatch record, which at the time that he got that record was over the world record. So he's considered one of the best weightlifters ever. Misha Koklayev is one of the most complete athletes, especially for an individual to compete in both weightlifting and strongman. Now, last but certainly not least, we have the athlete Bruce Wilhelm. Now, Bruce Wilhelm was actually a former track and field star who eventually turned to the sport of weightlifting. When he started participating in the sport of weightlifting, he then took the silver medal in the 1975 Pan American Games, and then the following year took 5th place at the 1976 Olympic Games, an incredible jump in performance. From there, he wasn't done yet. In 1977, that was the inaugural year of the very first World's Strongest Man competition, where he took 1st place, and the following year he returned to defend his title and took 1st place again. Bruce Wilhelm is probably the OG and the most original cross-sport athlete, especially if you're going to talk about Olympic weightlifting and strongman. Wonderful and amazing feats of strength are possible with such fun and wild combinations of training modalities. If we were to train them with some thought and consistency, who knows what's possible for the strength athlete. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button and let us know what you think in the comments below.